Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I got a special review, man. I just read a book, probably the best book I've read all year, and I'm excited to get to it. I mean, this is the best mystery novel about human flesh-eating weasels that I've ever read. And it is Open Season by C.J. Box. Now, in some of my book tour, my library tour videos, a lot of you had seen that I had been collecting the Craig Johnson Longmire books, and so you started recommending that I get C.J. Box and his Joe Pickett series. Once in a while, I will go on your recommendations, and by God, I'm happy I did, because this book, I was floored by how awesome it was and how quick I read it. And just, this is his first novel. This thing came out in 2001. It was his first ever novel. And I'm saying, for a first novel, this thing was polished and professional as hell. This is unlike any other debut novel I've ever read. I mean, the guy hit a grand slam home run with this. Let's talk about not only that, but he won a lot of mystery awards. Like, he won every mystery award that year, and this thing came out of the gate a blockbuster bestseller. And it just, and the Joe Pickett series, which I think there's about 20 or 21 of them in the series now, every one of them's been a New York Times bestseller. So, I mean, I was aware of them. I've seen them in the bookstore for the last 20 years. I just haven't read them. So whoever out there, you people out there that recommended I start this, great. I just got this, read it in a couple days. Now I've got 20 other books in the Joe Pickett series I got to go buy, which I will do. You know I will do it, because these are awesome. We always talk about the covers. One of the things I like about this series, and if I ever do a book haul on this series, you're going to see that all the covers are very elegant. And I know you can't tell from this video because I don't have any of his other books with me now. But when I do the book haul, when I buy all 20, you'll see that they all have a matching spine. They all have a matching wonderful cover. Big, elegant, nice cover of a Wyoming scene, which I think is great. So let's get to the book itself. Joe Pickett, he's our main character. He is a game warden. Hey, this is the first series I've read about a game warden. You know, my uncle Verdon was a game warden in Utah. And everywhere I go, people are like, hey, if they find out my last name is Durfee, they're like, hey, did you know Verdon Durfee? He was a game warden. Game wardens in states the size of Wyoming and Utah, everybody who hunts, everybody who lives, they know them. I mean, there's only 50 or some odd game wardens in the entire state of Wyoming. It's probably not that much more in the state of Utah. And they all know each other. They're all police. They're all law enforcement. And anybody that's a wildlife enthusiast they all know all the game wardens. That's part of the plot of this book, is that Joe Pickett is a brand new game warden on the job, and he has just replaced a guy named Vern. Yeah, Vern. I can't remember. I think it's Vern that he replaced. There's a game warden that he takes over the job of this game warden that was very popular, a retired game warden who was super, super popular within the whole state, amongst all the other game wardens, amongst all the ranchers, with all the hunters and trappers and people that make their living off the land in Wyoming. This game warden was super popular. And now Joe Pickett is 2 weeks on the job, and he's replaced this popular guy. And everybody kind of thinks this Joe Pickett is like a Barney Fife. Like, he's not really capable for the job. And really, the first call that he ever goes out on proves this. And it's in the prologue, so I'm not going to spoil much here. But he goes out, he finds that there's this guy who's poached a couple of deer. The guy named Oat has poached a couple of deer. And he goes out to talk to Oat, and Oat is skinning the deer, and he's like, fuck, the game warden just caught me poaching. But Oat is used to the old game warden who used to kind of understand that people lived off the land, and sometimes they lived off just the deer that they could. And so he would let stuff like poaching slide. But Joe Pickett, he's new, so he's got to do everything by the letter of the law. He's got to do everything by the book. So he's going to write the guy a ticket. And a ticket for poaching can ruin this guy's life. And so there's a little scuffle. The guy's like, hey, man, why don't you just let this slide like the old game warden that everybody used to love would let things slide a little bit. Why don't you just let this slide? You know, I got to feed my family with these deers. And Joe Pickett's like, no, I'm going to give you the ticket. And then there's a scuffle breaks out, and Joe Pickett gets his gun taken from him. And Oat points his gun at Joe Pickett and is like, well, what you going to do now? Well, long story short, Oat is basically a decent guy. He doesn't want to kill the game warden. He gives the gun back, but in his and a couple of months go by, and in a drunken sort of bragging at the bar, Oat was like, yeah, you know that new game warden, that Joe Pickett? Yeah, he's a real lame ass. I took his gun. We got into a wrestling match out in the woods, and I took his gun. And so then there's an investigation. This is all happens in the prologue. This is the setup to the story. So I'm not spoiling anything here. So there's an investigation, and Joe Pickett now might lose his job because he got his gun took, and he didn't arrest the guy for taking his gun, because it's a really serious crime. He gave the guy the ticket still for the deer poaching, but he didn't arrest the guy for taking his gun. He's like, okay, he's embarrassed. Let's not speak of this. So now he's under investigation for not arresting this dude that took his gun and threatened his life. And it makes him look like a weak ass bugger. And he's like kind of like, oh man, what do I do? I've really screwed up here. And that's when all the weird stuff happens. That's when the human flesh-eating weasels show up. So this is a great, great story. I was wrapped up into this story because I know what it's like to be. I work law enforcement. I know what it's like to be a brand new fish in law enforcement, as we call them in our department, fish. But they're rookies. They're green cops. You know. Now we've got this Joe Pickett. He's kind of unsure of himself as a new game warden, and then Oat, the guy that bragged about him taking the gun, Oat mysteriously is found dead in Joe's woodpile. So now he's got a mess of problems. And his daughter has little furry friends that live in the woodpile, and they're human flesh-eating weasels, and his daughter has made friends with the human flesh-eating weasels. I kid you not, the story is dynamite. The story is dynamite. And, you know, one of the things is Joe Pickett has married. Another thing that I love about this story is it's not just about Joe Pickett and law enforcement, but it's about Joe Pickett's whole family. And that's what I love about this, is because we get to meet his wife and his kids, and we get to meet the other people that work in the force with him, that work in the game war, and a lot of the other sheriffs, like the county sheriff that he works with closely. We get to meet all of these characters, and that's great because Joe is he starts out, it's the year's 2000 when this takes place, and he starts out at a $26,000 salary, and his wife is kind of a little disappointed because she's like, she wants a dude that makes a little more, but she's still a good woman and is going to stick by him, but she wants a little better life than a $26,000 game warden is giving her. And Joe Pickett is very, very insecure about this. And well, just so you know, Joe, when I started my law enforcement career in 2008, I think I started at about 36,000. Well, now we're up to, now it's like a long years. We're doing pretty good. I think it was 70 some thousand, 70. I mean, I'm not going to say, but it's a lot. And then with my book earning money and then the other stuff that I make, we're doing, it's just so hang in there, Joe. All I'm saying is hang in there, Joe. Hang in there, Joe. You know, law enforcement career, it's gonna add up over time. You're gonna be making a lot more money than that down the road. So just, all the money I bet you I make $250 million a year off of what I now. So hang in there, Joe. Hang in there, right? Hang in there. Law enforcement will pay off after a while. So anyway, where did we left off at the flesh-eating weasels and the little daughter and the dead guy on the woodpile? Well, that starts a whole other set of mysteries. and a thing about endangered species. And this thing is the themes that run through this book. I was reading this book so carefully. Every line is just so great. So great. Such a great debut. And the themes of the endangered species and how even the game wardens are endangered species themselves. I mean, it's like every year each state hires less and less and less of these guys. And but yet still they're so important for the environment. And they're so important for just extra law enforcement out in the... I mean, a game warden, he runs across a crime out in the middle of the wilderness, and he's by himself. He's got no backup for hundreds and hundreds of miles. And that's one of the stark realities of this book that C.J. Box has written, is just the endangered species theme running through this, not with just the flesh-eating weasels, but with... Joe Pickett himself and law enforcement, and even just hunting and ranching in general. If you've ever watched that show, Wyoming, with Kevin Costner, if you like that show, Wyoming, with Kevin Costner, or even the Longmire series this is going to be right up your alley. This is a great Western novel, a great Western mystery, one of the best books, probably one of the best debut novels I've ever read. And I know what it's like to write a first novel. I mean, my first novel is crapola and it'll never get published. This guy's first novel came out of the gate just on fire. And I can't wait to read the rest of the series. C.J. Box Joe Pickett series, book number 1 was fucking dope. Everybody's got to get it. Everybody's got to get it. I give this 10 out of 10, man. I can't imagine a mystery novel getting better, and I can only imagine that he does get better, because this is the first one, and now there's 20 some odd. This thing was just, you could tell this dude was having fun while he was writing this. How do I compare it to Craig Johnson's Longmire? I think I like this better. I think I like it better. Anyway, everybody go out and get this. I'm excited about this one.